Welcome back to the Self-Esteem and Confidence Mindset podcast with me, Johnny Pardo. Today, I have a special guest on the episode with me, Aimi, and we're going to be talking about self-confidence and heartbreak and relationships and much more. So welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited you could come on as well. And it's great we could connect. I know there's a lot of value you can give the listeners today in terms of some of these challenges they may be facing themselves. So, of course. So Aimi is a dating, relationship and heartbreak coach looking to help people overcome challenges in their relationships. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit more, and what actually got you into this area?
Yeah. So this kind of stems back into my early, probably, late high school, early college days. So I have a background of coming from a really toxic relationship. My ex was an alcoholic. He was narcissist at best. And what all of that kind of heartache of 6 years has really taught me from that point on is a lot of the things that I learned from there is something that I didn't know then that I wish somebody would have. And even though if somebody would have tried to help me at that moment, these experiences need to be experienced on their own in order to kind of understand how you're going to learn from them. But there's a lot of us that don't learn from our mistakes and we keep repeating the same cycles over and over. Luckily, I wasn't doing that to myself, but I knew that love is something that we all want, even if we say we don't want it or we don't need it. It's not true. All of us want some type of connection, romantic or friendship, whatever it is. We are social creatures. And I know that this is very much a topic that all of us can really gain some good help from. So it's always been my passion to help my friends, anybody who's around me. Like anytime somebody's talking about love, like my ears pop up and I'm like, wait, what? Oh, you should tell me too. Like I'm always very interested in it. So naturally I'm drawn to it. So this is why I kind of stepped into it and decided to study more about it. And today I'm married to my husband. We've been together 10 years and we've been married 7. And it's been the easiest thing I've ever accomplished in my life. And I think there's definitely something to be said that it's an easy relationship. So yeah, that's why I've decided to help people that need a little bit of help and a little push out there. So yeah, that's about it.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations, 10 years together and married for a good number of those. That's brilliant. and can totally relate to the needing people as well around you, in a good way, that love and that connection in terms of, like, I've just been in 10 days of isolation, and even as someone who works on this mindset, you can feel it when you're just alone in a flat. So totally can relate to that. Isolating, I'll just mention isolating so I can get past my COVID test.
Right.
Of course.
There is a reason for this isolation.
There is a reason. I'm not a nutter. Not just doing this on a crazy dare or anything, but yeah, love it. So you mentioned, obviously, you went through a challenging time in a challenging, I think you said it was a toxic relationship were the words you used. And obviously you said you went through that experience and you learned from it. What were perhaps a couple of lessons that you would share with the younger version of yourself at that time now?
Oh man. I mean, it's one of those things like, better, like, that it's not right. And that's why I didn't tell a lot of people. I didn't tell a lot of like the people that I love, like my mom, my family. They had no idea of half the things that I was going through. And when it did actually end up being like, okay, I'm really for sure breaking up with him, that's when I started coming out and telling everybody the truth. And everybody was so surprised. So I kept making up reasons within myself of why I kept dealing with it, because you keep making up stories about this person of the things that they do right. But inevitably, the things that keep coming up that are all the wrong things is like, you can't keep doing this to yourself forever. And what really broke the camel's back was I found out he was cheating on me. So that really was just like, okay, a part of me was like relieved, but also heartbroken that it was happening, because I'm like, okay, now I can finally move on. But I also, of course, you're heartbroken. I mean, we were together like 6 years. We were together for a long time. We were engaged, we were living together, like the whole bit of it. So if I could give anybody advice, is that if something is not right and you know it's not right, stand up for yourself and realize that you deserve so much more than just this mediocreness, or maybe, they're not aligning with what you need. Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting things that you want for yourself. And there's no such thing, like the right person is going to fill that meter for you. They won't say that you're crazy. They won't say you're clingy. Like, they'll make sure to assure you, and they'll make you feel more secure in your relationship because you know that that person's your right fit. So if I was to give my younger self, is that I wish that I was stood up for myself more earlier, but it took that long time. I needed that, I think. So I don't regret anything.
And valuable. It sounds like you're in a wonderful, amazing relationship now. So it's led to where you are now, which is awesome. So was there a little bit of perhaps the instinct inside of you was telling you, no, this is wrong, but the head was getting in the way and trying to justify it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because so this is a really crazy story. So that night that I finally decided this is it, no more, like I was busy that entire day. I had so much stuff to do. And whatever intuition that I had, I just felt like I need to go home real quick. I don't know what it was. I just felt like I needed to go home. I had no idea what I was going to find. I just felt it was just another regular day. I just was like, I need to go home first. And I found him cheating on me. So I really had no idea what I was going to find that day, but your intuition is so strong. And I think we block that off because we just don't want to hear it. And the more that we reject it, it's like you get less sensitive to that, like kind of like that wavelength of like the universe telling you like, hey, I'm trying to help you. So I think that's a very powerful message. Like that day, I will always remember that like weird feeling, like I just need to go home. And I found that and I was like, wow, I was really not expecting that. But whether you're religious or you believe in, the universe or whatever, like listen to it because it's telling you something. Like there's nothing more powerful than, your intuition telling you something.
Yeah, no, it shows how powerful it is, and how not listening to your head all the time is it can be really it can be a good guide. I've certainly experienced that, and I know many people who've gone with kind of their instinct and their heart, and sometimes you have to still go through those painful experience. Well, we're all going to go through painful experience.
Oh yeah, it's inevitable. It's just life is made up of up and downs, and I think some of us have this idea that it's always supposed to be high, but life isn't supposed to be enjoyed all the time. If there was nothing, like if there was no heartache, then you wouldn't know what happiness means. If there wasn't any darkness, there's no light. So I think the problem with now, especially we're so distracted with our phones, is that we're just instantly looking for that gratification and that high to keep us happy. But I think we've kind of forgotten how to just be and understand and feel it's okay to go through these lows, but trust yourself enough that you're going to be okay. I think that's the other scary part, because we look for all our answers on Google. Like, I don't know. So I was born in the 80s. So I know what it's like not to have a phone. And back then, it's like you had to figure everything out on yourself. And now that we have Google to tell us all the answers, I think we've kind of lost a little bit of that confidence and trust in ourselves because we're not sure if we can do it by ourselves anymore, if that made any sense.
Yeah, totally. We're not spending enough time with ourselves. We're not allowing ourselves to listen to us. And we're always looking for like certainty or to feel good, but it's okay to feel down sometimes because you got to work through that, right? And I used to be terrible with this. I totally relate to it. It's used to be like push, like dating a girl didn't work out. We suddenly be like, no, I'm pushing forward, so I'll go another date, go on that kind of mentality. And actually, my self-esteem that's kind of what got me on this area, but got me into this real low state of self-esteem. And it's like, really not having a good relationship with myself, and you got to change that. So I've been those places as well. So totally. We're trying to get that instant thing, whether it's the going out for drinks with your mates or it's going on social media. It's just, we're living that world. So you would say kind of be with yourself and look inside yourself a little bit more.
Totally. Like, it's okay to be sad. Like, it's okay to cry. Like, you tell your kids, like, don't cry, don't cry. Like, I understand you want to be like, hey, let's be tough, but at the same time, I think we've gotten used to trying to shoving all that feeling down, and you never get rid of that. Like that trauma will always stay with you. And I think that's why there's a lot of anxiety these days with it's such a popular topic. I feel like this wasn't a huge topic like, 25 years ago. Like anxiety now is so ridiculously common. And I think that we're constantly comparing ourselves on social media with other people's reels. Like that's not what everybody's life is like all the time. So the comparison game, just shoving all that feeling down, telling yourself that, no, I can't feel this way. I'm just going to ignore it and go keep myself occupied and do other things so I don't have to think about it. So, when it comes to breakups, I think that it's important to recognize that you are sad and you should be sad. You're moving on from something that you're so familiar with, and it's scary to go into something that you have no idea what you're stepping into. But I know this sounds cliche, but time really does heal mostly everything, and it just needs a little time. But I say give yourself an amount, because sometimes people get stuck in this rut and they never leave, and that's when it gets a little dangerous. But I think that you're allowed to feel whatever you need to for a little bit, and then you have to go surround yourself with people that are supportive, people who care about you, who love you, and do things that like really, really make you happy. Like do things that excite you. So do things that you're like, okay, I like to, have a bunch of plants and nourish them, or I want to go draw again, or take photos, or have coffee, go shopping. I don't know, anything, now's the time to discover yourself again. And I think that when you start doing that, you start to feel happy. That's like when that little piece starts kind of coming back again. And there will have a day when you don't think about it. And that's kind of when you're like, I feel so much better, So I think that it's really important to acknowledge the pain that you're feeling, but don't shove it all away.
Yeah, great point. Great point. That kind of draws me on to the next thing I was going to ask, although that is such a great answer. You've covered like several things I was thinking about asking. But often in this world, and it kind of links to what we were talking about, but it's more to do with people. In this world, obviously, we're just talking about you go on your social media, it's this instant thing, and then we seek this external validation. Now, I want to talk about seeking external validation, but more in the context of a partner or dating someone. Do you find often that people perhaps you work with, or from your own experience, or people you know, are more often seeking that external validation from themselves? And if so, how can we start to really internally validate ourselves a bit more?
And I think that's the hardest part, because I know plenty of people who literally would be like, you know that they're having a hard time, and then they post something and saying, oh my God, I love this man. And you're like, but you were just telling me the other day that this happened. And that's the thing with social media, is that I'm also very careful how I tread my husband on my content as well, because there's a part of me that I'm like, I don't want to throw myself into everybody's face, and I know that it doesn't matter what people think, but I also do myself find that I filter what I post of my husband as well, because I don't want people to be like, oh, look at Aimi posting all these happy pictures of her and herself. And even though I think it's very much valid that I have gone through a lot of heartache, and now I have found somebody who is a wonderful equal of me, but I think a lot of people post it to maybe sometimes reassure themselves that they're okay, or they want to paint this picture because they do want it to last, and they want it to be true for themselves, that this is a happy relationship that they're trying to paint for themselves. Or maybe they want to even post this so that everybody else won't have to worry about them. Because I know for me, I didn't tell people my struggles because I didn't want people to worry about me or tell me what to do. Because if I knew for a fact, if I told people half of the shit that I went through, that they'd be like, why are you still with him? You're stupid. Hurry up and break up with him. And then you don't have that piece of you to really be like, well, I knew better, So I think a lot of times we post these things to kind of validate for ourselves, but really validating yourself is like, you're just being true to yourself. Like you can post whatever you want, but at the end of the day, if you're not happy, then I think that's something that we need to work on internally or in our relationship to maybe make it better so that we can move forward in a more healthier way.
Absolutely. And that kind of brings me on to the next question, and kind of working on ourselves the healthy way. Now, going on, if you're coming out of a relationship or you're dating, you're heartbroken or whatever, look at this side. So you're in this place where actually it is hard, very hard emotionally. And like you were just saying, that's okay. That's okay to be like that and feel like that. But I can remember like when I used to do it, it used to be like just eating junk and I was exercising as well, but it'd be like eating junk, perhaps going out. I've always been quite social, so I always had groups to go out with and stuff. So it'd be like going out with a group and then drinking way too much. And yeah, it was just painful. But what can people do if they're perhaps in that really low point? They've just split up, they're not feeling good. Are there a few kind of things they can do to get themselves started to moving back up?
Hard.
I guess it's not a big jump. Like we can't just jump from low to high, can we? But just moving up.
I think, it's common to drown our sorrows with substances like drinking, maybe drugs for some people. But I think everybody needs different things when they're going through breakups. Maybe people need a human connection, support. So maybe like a friend being like, hey, I'm going to come over and hang out with you, spend the night, whatever. Or maybe they just need to be out in the sunshine to be like, I need to just get out of this little hole of my house. Because I'm sure you know just as much as I, because you do work a lot from home, it's easy to stay home. And you kind of get like sunk into this little tunnel. And let me know if you can relate to me, because I do this. I literally am like, I'm not depressed, but you almost kind of become like stuck in your environment. And then when you go outside and look at the sky, it's like, it's just so nice. Like it makes you kind of come back to like the moment and realize that you're such a little small piece on this big earth. And you're like, wow, I need to go outside more. So I think the biggest piece of advice could be for somebody who's just having such a hard time. And this could be also something you can do with loss as well. Like if somebody passes away, because this was a really hard thing I was dealing with when my father passed away. And I'm very open about this with what's happened in my life. My dad committed suicide. And so when that happened, it was really hard for me to just get out of bed. So what really kind of kept me pushing at that moment was, it was kind of a hard thing to understand with myself, but I think the hardest part is knowing that everybody has like you see people smiling and it's almost like, how is that person so happy when my world feels like it's falling apart? You know what I mean? So I think coming to reality with myself and saying that the world doesn't stop for you. It's always still going, and you have to show up for yourself because you're that important that your life has to keep going. So I say the simplest step is getting out of bed, wash your face, and go outside. Go outside, look at the sky, walk your dog, whatever it is, go outside and look at the sky. Get out there. And then if you need support from like anybody, like a close friend, maybe a family member, come and hang out with you, go do anything outside together, whatever you're comfortable with having around you. I think that human support's really important. And I'd like to give this little advice for people who are trying to support somebody going through this as well, because I think a lot of times you don't know how to support somebody who's going through this. And we tend to kind of say not the wrong thing, but it comes off insensitive. So, have you ever heard like when you break up and they're like, oh, well, you'll meet somebody again? That's not what you're thinking of when you break up with somebody. That's like the last thing you're thinking of. So I think the nicest advice, not even an advice, don't give them any advice. Just be there for them and say, hey, what can I do to help you right now? That's it. And just if they're like, I just want to sit at home and watch TV. Perfect. I'll sit here and watch it with you. Whatever it is, support them, but don't sit there and like try and give them advice like, oh, he was a jerk anyway. Oh, well, you're going to meet somebody soon anyway. Like that's not necessary at the moment. Like they're not even thinking about that. So I think surround yourself with positive people. If they're funny, that's even a plus. I love my funny friends. My husband's hilarious. That's another reason why I love him. He's freaking funny. So surround yourself with people who will make you laugh, will make you smile. Go outside. If you can muster up exercising along with that, do it. Take a walk. That's still exercise. And try your best not to indulge in booze, stuff like that, because all that does is heighten your sadness. I have a story how I was really sad after my breakup and I went to a club and I got really drunk and I was crying at the club. I was that girl. That's really embarrassing. So
I don't think you're the only one who's done that.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of people out there who've kind of been done that. So
yeah, all it does is amplify that feeling of emptiness. So if you can try and avoid that a little bit and keep your head a little bit more crisp, I think that's a really smart idea. But yeah, those are a few of my tips. I know it's not easy just to switch your mind and say, hey, I'm going to be good today, because that's not how it works. But just do a little small of everything. Don't overwhelm yourself with too many tasks in one day, and just do a little bit every day. And eventually you'll come to a place where you're like, I feel better, or I actually didn't think about it today. And that's what we're trying to get to. And that can take time, and that's a different timeline for everybody. So I can't say it's going to take this much time, but I think those baby steps really are the big steps.
Love it. Baby steps being the big steps. Also like what you said about the question, what can I do for you? Because people always want to give their advice and jump in. But as one of actually the guys I follow, he says advice is only advice if they've walked the path ahead already and done it ahead of you. So yeah, it's 100%. Peter Sage, great quote. But yeah, totally great question, just asking what you can do for them. And thank you for being open about your experiences as well that you've had, and even when you were in a real struggle and you had to come out of it gradually in those small steps. So appreciate you sharing that. And what you're saying about being inside and then going outside, I'm going to be like a kid in the sweet shop tomorrow when I'm in fresh air. So
yes.
There we go. So yeah, love that. So quite a lot of us have very busy lives. In fact, pretty much everyone I know claims they're busy. There's obviously a difference between being busy and prioritizing the right things in your life, though. But how important is it for people to prioritize themselves, and what's a way perhaps they can get that into their day?
You mean like prioritizing themselves?
Just like making time for themselves. Is there any kind of ways that have worked for you in particular to help your self-awareness and your self-love with yourself or anyone you've worked with?
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's hard. Like, this is really cliche to say as well, but you have to make time. Like, I know there's people who have families, they have kids to take care of, they also have a job to do. Like, you just don't have enough hours in the day sometimes. So you just have to find a small little window. For like my busy moms, I'm always like, okay, that nighttime when you put them to sleep, if it's like a nice bath that you need just to like be still and quiet, by all means. If reading a book is what makes you happy, do it. If you want to binge watch that trash TV, go for it. Like, I think we all need some time to ourselves, and prioritizing that and thinking that we always tend to push ourselves last, because that can always be sacrificed. Everything else, like our work to-do list, our tasks, it's like, okay, this needs to be done today. I have a deadline. And so we're like, well, I need to do this, but I'm just going to push it away. But I think that we're doing a disservice to ourselves by not putting ourselves first, because we're serving from an empty cup. And so I think no matter what you have to do, you have to just, even if it's an hour, even if it's 30 minutes, and I really highly recommend meditating. And it's just nice to just be in a quiet space and just breathing, and that calms your heart rate down. And then even that's like a little part of self-care, so that can like give yourself a little like mind reset. So it's hard for me to say how to organize your time and better manage your time to give yourself a little bit more of that space, but whatever you have to do, do it. Like, I know a ton of entrepreneurs who have a whole family and stuff they got to do for their kids, but they always say they wake up at 5 a.m. and they get it done in 2 hours prior, then wake them up, set them to school, and then they start again. So, you have to have a discipline for something like that in order to be like, I'm going to make some time for myself. So I guess it's discipline, and also self-love, and knowing that you deserve that time, because, I think this also can relate to like, maybe like a tired parent who's just they're so drained, but they're still trying to care for their kids, but they're kind of doing it like almost like not half-assed, but they're just like, I'm so tired. And that's not really serving in the best way you can to your family either. So I think always put yourself first is really important, even if you don't have time, make time.
Yeah, brilliant words. And yeah, it's going to be specific for each of us, right? But yeah, just seeing how you can make time for yourself, as it's always cliche, but there's a difference between knowing something and actually doing it. So
yeah,
it's very true. So really appreciated all your input today and the value you've given us. So before we sort of wrap up today, are there any final words or points you'd share with us?
Man, don't dismiss love. Like, I know there's a lot of you guys out there that feel like I'm tired, or I'm tired of being let down, or I can't seem to find the right one. Like, there is somebody that's perfect for you out there, but you have to know what to look for. And I believe that you can. So don't give up on love. We all need it. And I also have a YouTube channel. It's under Aimi Green. It's AIMI, and last name is Green, like the color. And I put out weekly content on Tuesdays at 9:00 a.m. All kind of topics, from dating, heartbreak, to relationships, all kinds of topics. And sometimes I have my husband on. I'm going to have him on a monthly basis to kind of have his married perspective on topics as well. So I would love that. And also follow me on Instagram at Aimi Green also.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was fun talking.
No, appreciate you. And we'll be sure to link those in the description of this episode as well, in the notes. So that concludes our episode for today. But remember, work on your self-confidence every single day.